I'm here with Rodney Chartes, recipient of the Career Achievement in Television Award. Sir,
thank you.
Let me first start off saying, where did you find that tie?
You know, as one does these days, I was cruising the net, and I was actually looking for a 3D printer in a kit form because I couldn't really afford the more expensive ones. Of course, I wanted them. And I found a company called ASC Gears, and on their front page, they said they were selling a mirrored tie, and I said, if I was a cinematographer about to do a big award, I want that tie. So I had them FedEx it to me. They sent me two. They have gold and silver, but I chose the silver.
Well, it looks very dashing.
Thank you.
And I can guarantee no one else has that tie on this evening.
Right. I was hoping for that because I know that the women sometimes get into trouble when two people show up at the same event with a dress.
Well, your career spans decades, and you've worked on The Pretender, Nash Bridges, 24, Shameless, now even the Dallas reboot.
Yeah.
Is there any show, past or present, you wish you could have gotten your hands on?
That I didn't do? You know, my dad and I used to watch a show called The Westerner. Television was brand new in New Zealand in the 50s, and it was directed by Sam Peckinpah. And I sort of wish that I had, been able to see it again, because I don't think you can get it anymore. But that sort of inspired me. I had no ambitions at that time. I really just wanted to play with film. But that's a show that I think I would have loved to be associated with. He was a great director, and it was pretty exploratory television. I love the work that HBO does, some of the grand adventures that they take, Game of Thrones or the series in the South Pacific about the war and so on. My dad was there, and in fact, in Guadalcanal as a photo technician in the New Zealand Air Force, he would land and bivouac himself beside the Americans on the same runway. And he came back with great pictures from that period of the war. No, I've just been very grateful. I like shooting documentaries, and I was lucky enough to go. One of my assistants, her father had been an intern in a camp outside Dachau, and I went back with her and her father to the fields where the mounds were, with the burial mounds and so on, and found the whole experience deeply moving. And I miss that contact with real life. I think it's important that filmmakers do documentaries every now and then to remind themselves about the realities, because we deal with such a fantastical world. I think we can lose track of the realities of life.
What keeps your mind focused when you're not on set?
I find the technological leaps that have allowed us to carry a phone in our pocket that will allow you to explore any knowledge anywhere on the planet at any time, either imagery or Wikipedia. Just Google searches are an extraordinary part of my daily life, which is how I found the tie. And I wasn't really looking for it, but it's an amazing age to be able to communicate with your kids by Twitter and Instagram, to learn about what their loves and likes are remotely. My son was in New Zealand on a 3D gig this last week, sending back pictures of himself and the mountains, and it's so immediate that you can carry those tools around in your pocket. I could never go back. I love the immediacy of digital file shooting. I find that the satisfaction of watching a final image pretty well, apart from post, compared to film, was always a little bit uncertainty when the laboratory got your stock. Had you exposed it correctly? Was there going to be any dirt and scratches? Were there any issues of a technical nature? Whereas nowadays, what I'm watching as we record, they do a comp check right away, and I know that we have it, and we can move on, and I get to sleep a lot easier. But I used to go to the lab at 4 a.m. in the morning and watch dailies before I went to set, because you never knew. You wanted to have the confidence that when you sat down at the midday screening with the producers, you knew what you'd got. And that's no longer necessary, and I think that's a wonderful thing. You get a few more hours of sleep.
Yes, indeed. We all enjoy that.
Yeah.
Well, you did work on Dallas, and I've got to ask, how do you think the crew and the cast are dealing with the loss of Larry Hagman, and how do you get on from that?
He was a friend. He was a deeply spiritual man who was a hippie. He had an extraordinary life. He was so thrilled to reprise the role of Larry, of JR. He went out with a smile on his face, and I remember filming what turned out to be his last scene, where he was in a bathroom and he turned to a mirror and he didn't do the dialogue that was written. He just said, "I love you, J.R." You know, and at the time we weren't sure what, you know, it was just the day, and he went home, and then that weekend he was taken into hospital, and just a few days later he passed away. There was a great sadness and loss, but the crew bound together at his funeral, a memorial service, and then of course now we filmed the funeral of J.R. as part of the script, and the story will continue. But an extraordinary man. I had one flight where I went up in a helicopter with him alone, and it was very special because he regarded himself as an icon. He was a world-renowned figure of consequence, and just a wonderful actor, and a great friend to Bobby, you know, the characters, and Linda. They had been mates for 35 years or so since the show ended, and it's just a lot of fun to be in Dallas recreating this crazy story again. And a tremendous producer, Mike Robin, and Cynthia Cedri, who writes it. Smart writing, which is going to continue the series for a long time, I think.
Well, I want to congratulate you on all of your hard work and this well-deserved award.
Thank you.
Enjoy the rest of your night.
Thank you, Lef. Thank you.